So what this means is, even if in a certain country, even if there are no sustainability regulations, even if there's no work done towards this goal, uh, if they are exporting to a reporting company, if they are in the value chain of a reporting company, they still have to produce that information in the coming years. So even if a company is, so all exporting companies need to make sure that they can produce all this information. For example, the example on the slide is a retail company in the EU that sells textiles, right? According to, and they report according to the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive in the EU. And there is a critical supplier in Turkey, right? Let's say that the supplier in Turkey provides cotton yarn or cotton fiber, right? The EU company will have to, in the coming years, they will have to ask the critical supplier in Turkey, like, what is your carbon footprint? How much water do you use? How do you manage your waste? Do you use child labor? Do you have any policies against child labor? Or do you, and so forth? How do you treat your staff? Are you compliant with the regulations in your own country? Do you carry out internal controls and so forth, right? So even if there is no sustainability regulation in a certain country, the exporters in that country will still need to take into consideration these these EU regulations or Turkish regulations, whichever country they trade with. And I actually wanted to give some examples of what sustainability reports look like. And there are some good examples like Santander and Position Green. Kazmunaygas, for example, is from Kazakhstan. It's Kazakhstan's national gas company. They have a very good sustainability report. Actually, let's take a look at that. Just by looking at these documents, you can just understand actually how costly it is for companies to start providing all of this information. Now, Kazmunaygas is a multi-billion-dollar company, and it is without doubt that they have the opportunity, they have the budget, the staff to produce such good reports. And for example, here is like Kazmunaygas's sustainability report, as I told you, also covers environment, right? They also cover social aspects, and they also cover governance aspects, right? And throughout this report, you can see a lot of information and disclosures shared by Kazmunaygas, right? And for example, here's a strategic goal, right? Let's just read. The strategic goal 4 under this section is the sustainable development and gradual decline of carbon intensity of operations. So basically, Kazmunaygas here is saying that they have an intention to reduce the carbon intensity, and then they explain how they are going to do this. We can also take a look at other sustainability reports, but you can see all the effort put into getting this report together. This is the actual concern that I would have, or many companies have in relation, because they have to produce these reports, and most companies don't know how to. And the regulations at this point, they are very confusing. And a standard, like a typical small and medium-sized enterprise in Turkey, I can say, would have a lot of difficulties in meeting these reporting requirements. And this is a fact. And this is a difficulty that companies and organizations, they must address. So can we say that there is no escape from sustainability reporting? I think we can say that, except for micro enterprises. I think we can safely say that in the next 5 to 10 years, all around the world, companies will have to begin reporting their sustainability information. And there are reasons for that. One of the reasons, obviously, is to be able to, measure the sustainability performance of companies and governments, they need to take some measures or at least identify how these reportings are going to be made and how they are going to collect information. Because if they do not collect the information, then they cannot monitor and then claim that they have actually complied with their commitments under international agreements. So this is, I think, very important. And companies, organizations that fail to produce sustainability reports, that fail to produce sustainability related information, they will face many consequences. They might face many consequences. The first and foremost is they might lose clients and their place in supply and value chains. Because, the company in EU, when they ask their critical suppliers to produce certain information, like their carbon emissions, right? Or how much water they use and so forth, uh, they are asking it because they need to include it in their own reports. And if organizations, if companies, if they cannot uh, manage to produce this information, then they might actually lose their clients. And the company in the EU or in other part of the world may decide not to carry out business with the company. So this is a very big risk for exporting companies, especially. And then there's the risk of facing penalties. For example, in Turkey, we have this regulation, right? It says clearly that in 2024, uh, for the reporting period of 2024, companies, certain companies, they have to report. But what are the penalties? See, at the moment, right now, there are no penalties. But I know that the Public Oversight Authority is right now preparing documents and regulations on which penalties they will impose on companies that fail to report, companies that have to report but fail to report. So this is going to be a common thing in the future. So companies that fail to develop and prepare and publish their sustainability reports might face penalties. And then there will be many difficulties for companies in attracting investments, accessing credits and loans and incentives. For example, in Turkey, and also this is also in the EU, banks, especially for loans and credits, banks and financial institutions have begun implementing very strict sustainability related requirements in order to provide, credits and loans to companies. And for many companies, they cannot live without access to credits and loans. And banks are required to take into consideration and direct their funds into sustainability and sustainability related investments, right? And also government incentives. I don't know how it is in your countries, but in the coming months in Turkey, several government institutions, they are working on incentives to support Turkish companies in Turkey to start preparing their sustainability reports and also investments as well. And the intention is to make sure that the majority of the incentives are related to sustainability related investments. And there's also another possibility, another consequence would be disqualification from national and international tenders. For example, in Turkey, there is the Public Procurement Authority, and the government procurement is carried out in accordance with Law No. 4734 and according to the regulations of that authority. And I know, because this has been mentioned in several meetings, that they intend to introduce new regulations that will force companies that want to do business with the government, companies that want to bid for public tenders, they need to also provide certain information related to sustainability. It is not clear yet what kind of information, but this is definitely an area current work is ongoing and so forth. And also companies that fail to comply with sustainability reporting regulations, they will also lose their competitiveness power. And the reason for that is, for example, the European Union is actually it is already enforced, but it will be. They have a regulation related to carbon adjustments, right? Taxes. So basically, the carbon adjustment mechanism is a mechanism that the European Union will begin implementing in 2026 for imports coming from third countries. And this regulation, this practice will lead to additional import duties and taxes for products that are exported by countries or companies that are not sustainable. So what the European Union is saying here is that as the European Union, I hold the European Union companies to a very high standard. I force them to, be carbon efficient. I force them to report, and this brings a disadvantage in terms of competition to EU companies compared to companies in third countries that do not have those strict regulations. So from the EU perspective, they claim that they have the right to do that. Of course, this could be challenged in the WTO, but that is in the World Trade Organization, but that is another matter. So what the EU has decided is that if the product is not sustainable, then importing them into the EU will require an additional import duty, which will make these products more expensive, and therefore they will lose their competitive power in terms of prices as well. So these are the consequences for exporting countries, for exporting companies. So in my opinion, I don't think there is an escape from sustainability reporting to any exporting company throughout the world, whether in your country, whether in Turkey, whether in other equal member states, or any other country. The one case study question that I want to address here is that the question was, what can your organizations help to support your country in catching up or implementing with global sustainability reporting regulations? And from the answers that I received, I made a summary. Okay, there were many other aspects, many other ideas involved, but your answers included the development and implementation of sustainability standards, maybe. Your organizations can provide guidance and training on sustainability reporting. I definitely agree with this. Facilitate international alignment of standards. Engage with industries to promote sustainable practices, and conduct research on global sustainability reporting trends and best practices. These are the most highlighted aspects which your organizations, in response to the question, what can your organizations, and by your organizations, most of you are coming from national standardization organizations, right? We have colleagues from accreditation bodies as well and research councils as well, but most of our participants here are from national standardization bodies. So yes, now developing and implementing sustainability standards. I want to differentiate between sustainability reporting standards and sustainability related standards. Now, if we speak about sustainability reporting standards, it is typically the like the public oversight authority in Turkey. It is typically the authority responsible for financial and accounting standards. These organizations are typically also held responsible for sustainability reporting standards. And to be fair, I don't know any example where it is the national standardization organization's duty to prepare the sustainability reporting standards. Just so that you know, like I don't see any reason why not, but typically this is not the practice.